Good morning. Today's date is April 18th, 2024. Today's a very special day, and I'll comment on that in a second. I want to first give all glory and honor to God, HAYAH. But today would have been my 21st wedding anniversary to my late husband, Jeff James. God had been dealing with me lately that I needed to honor him, because without him, a lot of the stuff in my life wouldn't have been possible, even sitting here today. So he gets the ultimate glory, but today I'm honoring Jeff. Jeff chose this date to get married on. All him, not me. I told him any date was fine. But he chose it because the year we got married was a Good Friday. And it definitely was a Good Friday that year. So today, as I'm doing this video, it's to honor him. It may sound like that I'm not giving honor to God, but God brought him into my life. There was a purpose and a reason for it all. And I'll explain it. It wasn't done in vain. I never blamed God. Matter of fact, after his passing, I stood in my mom's living room and I said, I may not understand everything on the purpose and the reason, but I do know that God's got my back. He always has, and there's a reason and a purpose. And I'll stand on his word and his promises. So I don't blame him at all. And let me tell you why. Because without Jeff, I wouldn't have had a second family that took me in, and I was one of theirs. His dad loved me like you wouldn't believe. And I was the only one out of all of his girlfriends and stuff that they cared about, because I know that they seen a genuine person. Without Jeff, I wouldn't have got to experience Joplin and Joplin life. Without him, I wouldn't have got to experience and known about Joplin. Because other than what's in the news, a lot of this I would have just known in the news. I wouldn't have got to experience it. Without Jeff, I wouldn't have become a Formula One fan. I wouldn't have known about it because it's not that popular broadcast in the United States. Without him, I wouldn't have got to know who Michael Schumacher was. And Jeff was his biggest fan. Without Jeff, I wouldn't have got to go see those races here in the United States. He went before me, but we went 2 or 3 years after we got married to Indianapolis. I wouldn't have got to do that. Without him, I wouldn't have got to meet one of his best friends. That's like a little brother to me. He calls me Big Sis because he's younger than me. Without him and his passing, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did. I wouldn't be able to come home and spend the last year of my mother's life with her. Because we were best friends. Because if Jeff would have still been alive, I would have been there taking care of him. Without Jeff, I wouldn't have made the decision to stay here. God helped me make that decision. It's him that decided it for me. But if I hadn't stayed here, I wouldn't have went to a church here in town and met a guy in his ministry that would help me to understand all the stuff that happened in my life. The 522s, my anointing. Because without Jeff, I wouldn't have known all that. Without Jeff, I wouldn't be sitting here right now giving my testimony and doing these videos. That's not me. Without Jeff, none of this would have made sense. because I wouldn't have met Andrew. I wouldn't have known what his true name is, because I wouldn't have known Andrew. What God's true name is, which is HAYAH. I wouldn't have got to know how to really pronounce his son's name. Ayasu Bar Ayah. Without Jeff, I wouldn't have known the importance of 522s and what they had to do in my life, in my testimony. I wouldn't have got to understand my anointing and got to use it like I have. Yes, Jeff understood it. Yes, Jeff knew I had giftings that God gave me, but I couldn't use them as much. Without Jeff, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have got baptized and been the first person to be baptized in the name of HAYAH in Macon Lake, which is known as Long Branch. Without that, I wouldn't have got to meet a state patrolman. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. The state patrolman that turned around and came back and watched us for me being baptized, and that we found out, and it was done on 522, and we found out he was working on his wedding anniversary. And one other fact, he had come to Joplin when Joplin had the tornado. So everything has a purpose. God has a purpose. Even if we don't understand it, there's a purpose. We may not understand, we may not know for years, because until recently, I didn't understand all of this. I still don't know everything, why. But now I'm involved in a ministry that'll change the world, and they're thinking of who God is. And without Jeff and his passing, I wouldn't have been part of this. I wouldn't have been as excited to let people know what it is, to be there, to be the forward person to do this stuff. I'm a shy person. I'm a small town girl, just like the hat says. That's who I am. But without him, and God's leading, bringing him into my life, a lot of it wouldn't be possible. So no, I don't blame God. And no, I'm not, and yes, yes, I'm giving all the glory and honor to God for it, because God brought him into my life. And I'm honoring Jeff today, because none of this would have been possible. He never thought he was that important. But if he only knew just how important he ended up being, even in his death, what it's brought out. I just wanted to share a little bit about Jeff and why all of this is possible. I'm not going into my testimony and the 522s and all of that. Go back to my page and see them, because it's all there. Just know God's getting ready to do something, and you can be a part of it. And that I'm a part of it. Never thought that would happen. And it wouldn't have been without Jeff. So yes, Jeff came into my life. He didn't realize how important he would play in my life, even in his death. But he's there. And I'm sorry for the tears, but this is a very emotional day. And God gave me that caring heart. So take care. Thanks for listening. And be on the lookout for more videos, because I know they're coming now. Blessings today.